What's up, guys? This is Mandalo, and in this video I'm going to go through the setup and how to configure some chart layouts and indicators that I like to use in ATAS. So from ATAS.net you can download the program onto your computer. It's configured for Windows, but it does have instructions on how to use ATAS with Mac. Before we move forward, their website has a lot of extra things and education that you might find useful. So it's definitely worth checking out, even if you're already familiar with some of this. It's always nice to be able to learn more. And then in their resources, they also have a little bit more with some additional education. But that's for you to look into on your own. Let's get started. So once you've downloaded and installed ATAS, you're going to get a desktop icon, launch it, log in, and it's actually going to load up with this window. So in this window, you can actually launch your chart and do quite a few other different functions you're welcome to explore. It does have the ability to trade directly from the program if you log in with certain exchanges, but we're just going to look at how to chart for today. So you're welcome to load just a basic chart and build all of the things that you'd like to look at from scratch, but you're going to be a lot better off. It's a lot easier and faster to use some of their pre-built layouts in the chart option. So when we open up the charting option, you can see some of the different layouts that they have available. And some of my preferred layouts include the market profile and TPO and the cluster statistic. So let's take a look at market profile and TPO first. Now, when you select that option, it's going to give you a list of preset markets that you can choose from. If you don't see what you're looking for preloaded, then you can search in all instruments. And as you can see, there is a lot to choose from. Now, ATAS is free for crypto, and it does provide a really limited amount of data from traditional markets as well. If you're a TradFi trader and are looking to use ATAS for that, don't find any of the options that you're looking for, then I would suggest maybe looking into the paid version of ATAS for that information. But for crypto, you have a lot of markets available for free, and some of them are nice because some of the other tools that are available out there may not have all of these options on them. For instance, programs like Coinalyze don't have BitGet information and don't have Femex. So if you're trading with those exchanges or seem to be interested in what is happening with that particular exchange, then it might be worth looking at them here. But let's go into just a easy market to start with, one that moves a lot of volume. You know, the reliability of the volume that's reported. Leave that for another day. Leave it to crypto Twitter to talk about. But it's one that's easy to set up. BTC, USDT, Binance Futures. So we have now launched our TPO chart, and in just the default setting, it comes up in the M30 chart, and some of the information that it provides includes your time price opportunity, TPO profile, and your volume market profile. And then it reports things like your TPO point of controls and your value areas, which are 70 or 68, if you want to be technical about it, percent of the time where price action occurred. Okay, one additional piece of information that is sometimes visible is your single prints. And so you can see that there's a different color that popped up on my screen down below. And that represents a place where price moved quickly through and did not return. Okay, and that's a single print. So it's represented by one block in your TPO profile. And you see that later price action in a subsequent session nearly filled that single print, but didn't entirely. Okay, so in this instance, it somewhat functioned as a support for price action. We don't have single prints marked for the tops and bottoms. We call these tails because that represents wicks. And single prints are rapid price movement through an area where on either side price action developed through the day. Okay, in the default settings also we have the extension of our point of controls, value areas, and single prints until price action returns and touches those areas. So you can see that, for instance, this period, this day, there's no extension because the subsequent day filled these areas. But for this particular day, we have an extension really all the way up to the present. So why you would use TPO? There's a lot of different strategies for using it. I'll let you read more into this, but I found it really useful when market or price action spends a lot of time within a range. And then it's also really useful when price action begins to expand from a range, looking at prior periods for potential targets and looking for potential trades. Okay, so looking at this chart, it is in the M30. Let's look at it in the daily. So you see the extensions, but in the preset option, you're only able to see 20 bars. So how we can address this is increase the amount of days. And then you can see a lot more historical information. Now, very recently, the price action for BTC has moved into an area that it has not traded in nearly 2 years. So I'm going up to 700 days to view information from long ago and potentially see targets if price continues to expand, as well as if price drops again. Now, if you have a point of control that has not been touched from prior periods, that's what you call a naked point of control. And that's what's extending out beyond what our current day's price action is. The last thing I want to show you in this chart is something that may be a nice transition for people that are used to trading with traditional, normal candlestick charts and begin looking at the TPO. And that's by loading up candles as well. And I like to look at this with the candles. Now you can load lots of other indicators on here. You can use the drawing tools. Let you explore around with that all you like. If you configure the charts and want to save your settings instead of having to go through all of the configuration each time that you load ATAS, you just go in templates, add, and save it. Okay, pretty easy to get set up. It's a matter of learning how to use TPO, and it takes time. But viewing prior action, prior price action that is really helpful with speeding up the learning process, in addition to any reading or additional videos that you may use to learn. Okay, and you can even get some information just from ATAS itself, some simple things about TPO charts and whatnot. So it's a nice resource. Next, the cluster statistic. We'll look at BTC USDT again. And this is where things can get really interesting. Now, this is a weekend, so there is less volume transacted by far than during weekday trading, and especially during the New York session. So the default 5-minute chart may not paint as clear of a picture as increasing your time frame to M15, M30, H1, however you feel appropriate, or just at volume or delta settings. So if I was to look at volume settings, this is for 1000 BTC. This represents, in these 100 or so bars, nearly 24 hours of price action, where in the 5-minute you would have to look at a lot more. 2000. And you see that we're not going that far back again. And even in 1500, halfway in between. But this is the footprint chart, and in default it appears that it's showing you delta profile. I'm going to look at it in the M10 setting, because the footprint chart mostly is useful for seeing where there may be some imbalances in price action. Again, either a later video from me or do your own research. There's lots of information available with footprint setups, how to trade them. But it's just a tool. It's not a way to enter trades. Now this is your depth of markets, comes preloaded. I find it a little busy and it's not very expansive. And there's plenty of other instruments that you can use in other platforms that can show you order books, like what this is kind of representing. So I'm going to get rid of that. And down below, this is our cluster statistic. It gives you information about time periods, ASBID, delta, delta volume, and then session delta. So I like the delta and the session delta for kind of seeing where shorter periods of time are trending, for instance. But that's going to take some practice for you to get an eye for it. And the zoom out, it's nice for seeing the color difference or the color change over time. You know, it's getting redder, redder, redder. But it's not telling you the whole story unless you look at some additional indicators with this. So some of the indicators that I like to use include CVD, and I like to look at it in line. Big trades. And that highlights areas that big trades came in. It's pretty self-explanatory. And the last thing that I like to look at with this is open interest. And this shows open interest delta. Here's your big trade. Open interest increasing. But in this time period, CVD went down. So that's interesting. There's a divergence that happens here. And something to begin to at least observe as you're learning how to use these tools. Okay, I'm going to change the time frame, and maybe we can look at that particular point in time a little more closely. So in the M5 chart, see a big trade opened, but we're not seeing a lot of color in this candle. Okay, just right here. Now, open interest increasing while this is going up. That is different than maybe in this candle where open interest is not moving, but CVD is increasing and you have some price action outside of where the candle closed. Now, if the small bars next to your footprint profile are not as helpful to you as a candle maybe, then you can zoom out, look at your candles as well. Now you can configure it so you can see the candles around your footprints, but I'll leave that for you to investigate. Now the last thing that you may want to include in this chart is if you want to also see your TPO all in one place. Whoops. Okay, in our settings on TPO, it depends on if you want to see the volume market profile as well as the TPO profile. I do not. Just have the TPO in here. And make sure that you select just TPO. Okay, so it's going to show the current settings, but if you would like to see a little bit more, like the extensions and so on, make sure that you select them. Okay, and seeing where the value areas and point of controls are for a given day. There are trading strategies, as I mentioned, for using this in intraday trades, but I'll leave that for another video. And that's pretty much it. If you want to save these settings, or if you find a template that you want to check out, somebody shared it with you, again, you can go to the settings, templates, add, name it whatever you'd like, and then you can load it up in a later video or a later session. So that's about it for getting started with ATAS. Comment if you have any questions or there's anything that you'd like to see in a later video. And thanks for watching.